That's
Yeah, it's just, you know, like I said, I know a lot of people look up to you, and I do. And I know you're wanting to pass the torch and have other people, you know, pick it up and go forth and do great things. And so I just wanted to get as much knowledge as I could from you. And I'm kind of an ADD kid, so I love when you can pick topics apart just in long form conversation. It seems like I get more out of that than just reading at times.
good.
So,
Good.
yeah.
Uh-oh, what did I do here? Shoot. Are you still there, Cory?
Yeah.
Somehow I lost. What did I do? Back to meeting. Oh, sorry. I just anyway. Swipe. Sorry, I lost you from your picture anyway, but it's good. Okay.
How's the weather up that way? Are you still getting torrential downpours?
We have got just huge rain and winds. We were out of electricity for 3 days. We have a backup generator, but I live on this little island in the Puget Sound, which is that's what happens here. Actually, it was quite lovely
out there too.
I mean, it's those Douglas fir trees, they just dance and they're amazing. So you just kind of appreciate Mother Nature.
Absolutely. It's beautiful out that way too.
Yeah.
I thought we had a chance of her visiting us. I guess it was a few days ago or last week. Did you see the news? How that
Oh my God.
Well, they were predicting all day long. There was like
Where
a map.
Are you?
I'm in Southeast Missouri.
Okay.
There was the map that they were predicting all day. They're like, it is going to be horrible right here. And we were right in the center of it. And it actually split, and the worst of it went through Kentucky or Arkansas, Kentucky. And then some of it went up towards St. Louis. It totally missed us. So it blew our porch furniture off, but
well, that's not too bad.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Compared to, I can't imagine losing your house, your business.
Absolutely. And
devastating. The stories coming out of there are just horrific. It's like a war zone.
It is, exactly.
On top of COVID and everything else. My God.
Right. It's true.
I'm just so glad I don't have children.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Another thing to worry about. I do actually. I've got one that, speaking of things to worry about, she's going to take her driver's test Thursday. So I hope that goes well. She's gotten a lot better at it. So there was a friend of mine said, "You're talking with Sue? Oh my gosh. Could you get some advice for people pondering instrumental insemination?"
Ugh.
I know. Aside from
my advice to that is hold off.
Run away.
It's simply a tool. It's like a hammer. Okay. Do you have a blueprint to build that house first? And there's so much junk out there right now as far as equipment, and be really careful. Why do you want to do that?
That's
why?
A great question.
That's the first question. Why? Because I spend so much more time talking people out of it than it's expensive in, the training, the equipment, you have to be at a point where you need it. So right. I would get your breeding program up and going, take it as far as you can with open mating, and then think about it.
That's great advice. Would you suggest any prerequisites? 'Cause I usually tell people, if you're not a complete master of queen rearing, like, don't even ponder it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's no sense in that. So no, I've gone to just doing advanced training here pretty much. I mean, I spent a lot of time teaching it in the university system to a lot of different people. And it was interesting because maybe I shouldn't say this publicly. I would have students, and the more hobby oriented, or the people that I thought were not going to get it, I would shift over to them. But in that process, they really saw a lot and learned a lot, because you see all the mistakes and all the problems. But it's very tedious. It's not so much difficult. It's just very precise, tedious. working with your hands, you know, really tight like that. Detail. I'm a very detailed person. So, you know, you have to have those things in place kind of.
I think you have to be, I would agree, because it's not just the intricacies and sterilization and procedure. It's scheduling of when are you going to have queens. You have to have, you know, you're tying it into this complex schedule. So you have queens on this date, they're at day 10 at this date. I have to have semen and drones caught here, which, you know, there's some wiggle room there with storing at room temperature, but then you have to tie it into that and have healthy.
Well, it's the beekeeping that goes with that. Even, you know, I work a lot with these big commercial queen producers, and they don't like to deal with virgins. Queen cells or mated queens are fine. Drones, oh my God, I could write a comedy program about the drone situation. You know, the drones are the hardest part to get those mature from the colonies you need when you need it, and then to take care of them. They're very perishable once they hit maturity. You know that. So it's all about drones.
I would agree with that.
And most people getting into it, they don't realize what you need to do as far as the beekeeping. And then it's getting those queens up and laying and established. They can head full-size colonies with do very well, but there's that introduction where there's a change in the pheromone you got a big difference between virgins and mated queens, and this is kind of in between. So the bees are confused and they sometimes don't accept those queens very well. So that takes a little bit of care.
They sometimes take your hard work and throw it out the front door after beating it, killing it.
Yeah. But the perception that those queens don't perform is just not merited. It's based on injury, infection, how much semen you give them, quality of the queen rearing. If you're going to raise scrawny queens, you can't improve that.
I would completely agree with that too.
No, I've had these things last, I mean, average about 2 years, some 3-4 years.
That's awesome.
And it's all, I think it's all based on the amount of semen you give them, but then also that it's based on the care after insemination, because that sperm migration, that timing, that next 40 hours is super critical. So if she's cold, or if she's not moving, or if she's not well attended, like in a nursery bank, or, you know, just on the table in the lab or incubator or something, she's not going to get that attention. Because if you look at a queen after the mating flight, it's a flurry of activity. She's running around, chased by the worker bees. They help her remove her drone parts and feed her and groom her and take care of her. All that is really important for sperm migration. So you want to try to create that as best you can, given an unusual situation. So yeah.
There was, whenever I took your course, the studies and everything that you had to back up why you do what you do was mind blowing. And there was a lot of stuff on that too. I think you gave me something on instrumentally inseminated queen performance versus open mated, and because I've had some outperform open mated. And a lot of times my issues are keeping them from swarming because their colonies will get so big. And you know,
no, that's it, because I mean, these are your breeders, so you want to put the best you can give them, and that starts with the queen rearing. You know, you want those drones to be vigorous and healthy. There's a lot of Tarpey showed that there's a lot of death of sperm. I mean, you can have a nice healthy drone, but if that sperm quality is not good, I mean, in quantity and quality, pesticide exposure is going to, you know, make them non-viable, things like that. So there's a whole suite of things to do. I had a disaster this summer. Let me tell you about that. I do these custom inseminations for the researchers, single drone insemination, stuff like that. It was cold and I was in a bit of a hurry. So I have I usually have a ice chest with a hot water bottle. So I just grabbed a heating pad, and inseminated these beautiful queens, put them on the heating pad, and it got too hot.
Oh, did they roast them?
One queen didn't look good. She she eventually died, but the rest of those, I thought, oh my God. I put them in nooks. A couple weeks later, they're all drone layers.
It affected the semen viability.
Yeah. So all those little details are huge. Temperature.
Absolutely.
We know temperature affects queens and drones and all kinds of things like that. So, I mean, just that, trying to be too careful. No, disaster, and that's a huge amount of work.
It is.
Because you made up all the nooks, you inseminated all those queens. I marked their STI, so I marked all the drones. And you go back and they're all are partial drone layers. And I had to call this guy up saying,
whoops.
I'm sorry, but I screwed up your research this year.
You're right. Maybe next year. Yeah.
No, devastating. They're just totally demoralizing.
But that's reality.
I think, I got it down. I can do this.
Yes. Well, that's reality though too, and it's like there's still times that I'll question myself, like what is wrong with this? Why can't I get it? It's like I couldn't get around the valve fold or something, but I felt like I did, and it won't, and so I'll set her aside, and the next 5 will go perfect. And I'll try it again and no go. So I don't know if it's me, if she's anatomically different. I don't know. There's just
we're all physically different. There's some little thing there. Yeah. No. Sometimes if you put. Yeah, I don't know what that is, but
so expect disappointment.
Well, you just got to be realistic,
Absolutely.
Nothing's 100%.
I couldn't agree more.
You just try to stack the deck as best you can.
Let the cards fall,
and you get some amazing results out of that. But don't expect 100%.
You touched on something that jogged a thought in my mind, because like in Tabor and I think maybe even Paige Laidlaw's book, they talked about single drone insemination.
Mm-hmm.
For narrowing down traits is like a laser beam, but you kind of lose, I guess, longevity of that queen. You should probably use her really quick. But I was pondering a concept and I wanted to gather your thoughts on it. It may be a stupid idea, but I was thinking, as opposed to single drone insemination, what if you did single colony insemination, to where the drones would be a recombinated set?
Yeah, you have diversity there. That's a lot of what the Germans do. They set up these isolated mating stations, and they'll bring in like sister queens for drone sources or stuff like that. But honeybees are so sensitive to inbreeding. Mm-hmm. And when you narrow that down like that, I mean, it's single trait selection. That's a little different, but it makes me nervous because there's so many studies showing that the more diversity, intra-colony diversity, how many queens, how many drones she mates with, and diversity, and also the breeding population diversity is so important for bees. Yes, you have that high rate of recombination, but the more diversity, the more fitness is just the rule.
Absolutely.
And that makes breeding difficult because you want as much diversity as you can, but you want to select for these specific traits. Mm-hmm. I think the ultimate example of that is Rob Page's work with pollen hoarding. He spent his whole career looking at this one trait, one question, foraging behavior, pollen. So if you select heavily on that one trait, it has all these consequences down the road. Like the larvae, it changes the individual bee selection or behavior physiologically and socially. So the larvae are giving brood signals, feed me. And it goes down to these high-powered pollen collectors. Their ovaries develop more. They have more vitellogenin, more vigor, physiologically. And then there's no nectar collectors. So you get this pollen hoarding, plugged out nest of pollen, and the colony collapses.
Starts to lose.
It's just the whole social change, physiologically, all that stuff. I mean, even those pollen foragers, their ovaries develop, you know, and you're pushing one thing, but you have this whole suite of traits.
Yes.
You know, that's why that makes me nervous. I've got a lot of criticism for the way I do selection, which is just holistic. That closed population, you're just kind of selecting the top performers over time. You throw a few things in there like hygienic behavior, but if I have a good queen that's not hygienic, that's okay. She's still in the pool. Okay, that dilutes out that trait. But I found that what is resistance to Varroa? It's a whole suite of traits. I got some of the California guys wanted me to add the VSH. This was early on, before it was as well developed. So I did that. They complained the queens were not productive.
Yes.
Mine had more Varroa resistance than they did. Whatever that was, I don't know. Yeah. But, you know, you see, so it's just, if you see differences between colonies, that's what you select on. You know, you just select for that. It's that complexity of traits, like honey production. What is honey production? That's a really complex trait. Egg laying rate of the queen, the foraging behavior, propensity for pollen or nectar, or whatever that is. And the environment plays on that so heavily, constantly changing the dynamics of what those bees do and need. You've got specialists in there, but you've also have generalists, and things move and sway all the time. I don't know if you've ever tried to raise queens in a heavy honey flow. Oh my God, that's so hard to do.
Yes.
I was in, where was I? Chile, doing a project, and it was kind of raining nectar. We were on this Umo flow. It's like the leatherwood tree in Australia, these big trees, and oh, you could just, the smell and the flight was just incredible. We were trying to raise queens, and all those lovely nurse bees decided to just go for it. Everybody was collecting nectar. My cells got really skinny.
They weren't worried about the queens.
Yeah, it's just that you go where the opportunity is at the time. This is not the time to be making queens and swarming. This is a time to gather food.
Absolutely.
So you have to go with the bees, not fight them.
Yeah.
You know, you stay with the seasonal stuff.
You have to align with their
saying that, oh, I can't raise drones, so I'm going to inseminate these queens. And I'm going like, oh boy.
That's not going to work well. I've gone the Page Laidlaw closed population breeding model. Well, first it's a quote I've said way too many times, but I think it applies to a lot of things in life. It was Tom Sowell. He said, there are no solutions, only trade-offs. And I think that matches reality, especially bee breeding. But with the Page Laidlaw, you can keep diversity while moving the population towards a goal, like you said, a specific goal like hygiene or whatnot. And I've got some people that I talk to a lot and watch some of these that are going to be curious about that. And I know Dan Purvis was a bee breeder for a while, and he brought up Page Laidlaw closed population breeding model in our conversation we had. What would you, or how would you tell people like basic guidelines, number of queens, number of colonies?
Well, it's
how to manage that.
It's a population. You're working with a population, and I tell people, say they only have a small. I mean, what Page and Laidlaw did, it's based on a computer model. You start with 50 queen mothers, fairly diverse gene pool, 50 different mothers, and then you can go 20 generations. And there's a couple different ways to do that, like general selection, or you can do top crosses where you take a favorite one and a couple of favorite ones and cross it to the population. But it's, in the terms of being closed, I guess I call it more a modified closed population, because I'm always looking around. Who's got something better than I have?
What can I mix in the pot here?
So yeah, start small, but always look around, because I would always try to find something genetically diverse, set up a yard. And so you don't make a big change in your population. Just take a handful of drones from that and throw it in your pot of drones. So you get that diversity, but not a radical change.
That's good advice.
Be careful with that, because you can just throw out everything with bringing in something you don't want. Like one of my customers in California, oh, I got this great queen, oh, wonderful, all this stuff. So I pulled her in there, and all of a sudden there's chalk brood susceptibility. So, you know, you just, it is a trade-off. Mm-hmm. You want that diversity, but at the same time, be a little careful how you do that. So say you start with 20 colonies. Okay, but just don't limit it to 20 colonies. Just keep pulling things in. Mm-hmm. You know, when I started that, I just started carniolan because I thought, well, it's a little different. I could at least keep the bees black.
Yeah.
At the time, that was the goal. And I noticed their behavior is really different. They're a lot more conservative. In summer California heat, they would just shut down. They'd quit laying. And I'm like, oh my God, this is
what's
terrible.
Wrong?
But it was wonderful, actually, because Italian bees, it's feedlot beekeeping. They just go and go and go. You know, and I think that's one trait that's good for disease varroa, because you don't have that constant brood production, constant mite production. So Absolutely. That helps. And that time when there's not much brood is a good time to deal with varroa. You know, you can use non-chemical treatments and you know, easier things on the bees. So I like that.
Absolutely. Well, I saw the same thing that you warned against. Like, I think I had eyes looking around too much for what else was out there. And I was selecting, I had VSH stock, but then I had mad scientist idea. If I cross it with aloe groomers like Purdue stock, then I could have both traits, you know, and I start writhing my hands thinking of all the amazing, you know, mite resistance capabilities they would have if they targeted in the brood and groomed. They were terrible. Like whenever I outcrossed them, the parental stock wasn't that aggressive, but a handful, not all of them, but a significant amount of the F1 crosses were very aggressive.
Wow, that's interesting, because that's what Rothenbuehler found early on with that brown wine when he was selecting for hygienic behavior. Now I talked to Greg Hunt about that, because when I got my first importation of Carnica, this was from the German program. Their bees were just, I mean, you could work them in your bathing suit. And, awesome. You know, mine was pretty gentle. But that first cross, maybe 1 in 20 was really nasty.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, what is that? They were beautiful looking bees. But Greg said there's just some, he said, just take it to the next generation. Yes. And you might lose that. There's some little quirk in the,
you can weed it out.
But yeah, it was just some funny combination. When you've got two populations that are very different, distinct, you get a lot of unpredictability. You know, especially mixing subspecies, and that's almost kind of what that was, because my carny was just kind of something pulled together with different stuff in US and Canada versus the pure Carnica. So, you know,
that's kind of what this was. The Purdue ones that I had were darker queens, and I inseminated them with just straight VSH Italian, but it was even higher than 1 in 20. I would say it was 50 or maybe even 60% of them had.
Ooh, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, but that's fascinating. That's what makes this stuff so interesting.
But I ended up ditching a lot of it because I have a day job, you know, I've got too much going on, and I didn't have the proper time to go to that F2, F3 and get rid of the trash.
Well, it's a health issue too for the people around you. You know,
definitely.
You don't want to start that. So
they're not fun to work even, you know, because I don't like to wear gloves. I wear a veil because I'm constantly clipping, marking, you know, doing whatever. But I saw the same
pleasure out of it.
It does. It's not as much fun. And I saw a similar thing, and I guess it's like Greg said, that F1 cross, because I had a Harbo line, And then I had like VP line, which were two separate VSH lines, or should be. I know they were. They look a lot different. Anyway, similar thing happened. I had some that were freaking aggressive. Now they were rock stars on production, and mite resistance was out of this world. But
wow,
I had to, which I didn't ditch everything because that was a little bit better cross, and I just started getting rid of whatever I didn't want. But I didn't keep like 50 breeder queens.
whoa,
My thing with the closed population, or here's how I did it, and there's probably room for improvement. Or there's always room for improvement. But I have over 100 colonies. I would pick the best that I really liked, which would be, you know, maybe 50 colonies, but they weren't all breeders. And then I would have maybe 12 to 20 breeder queens to pick from, and I would pick from the best of those, and then I would assay the population and take 25 to 45, 50 colonies at a time. And then whenever I would get the remainder of that, I would catch drones out of all of it at the same time.
Yeah.
And then I almost thought of it like super mating, kind of those queens. And the brood patterns were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they perform well, but I just keep repeating that. But would you think I need to bump my
that seems like that seems like a small population, but the way you're doing it with mixing up the drones, you know, I'm becoming more confused about bee genetics because it's so complicated.
It is complex.
You know, and I look at the stuff I've done over time. Sometimes that populations get narrow, sometimes it expands. I've never had problems with brood viability, but if you go strictly by Page and Laidlaw's statistical analysis of that, 50 queens, 20 years, I'm sure I'd like to talk to him about that. I bet he's changed his mind a bit, maybe. But then I can't really tell you because I'm always kind of looking around, bringing things in over time.
With him, he was saying 50 queens, 20 years. Is that where he was saying statistically you're going to have inbreeding problems?
Yeah,
Okay.
But this is, I mean, this goes back to, geez, this is the late 80s. This is even before the genome was sequenced. So,
okay,
you know, we know so much more about bee genetics and how that works.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think, as long as you're looking at brood viability,
definitely.
That was my thing. As long as I have that nice solid pattern, and I'm kind of amazed at that sometimes because even within that population, you can get these just gorgeous brood patterns, and you're like, whoa, and she's just going, you know. So I wouldn't. I mean, that's a pretty good population size. I wouldn't worry about it unless you start seeing some spottiness or things like that. So, well, then I guess even with that, you know, if you got a super good queen, you could take her and outcross her with something,
and then select from the.
So it's fluid, dynamic. It's moving. It's changing. That's your constant.
I was overly obsessed. Maybe not overly, but I was probably overly obsessed with VSH for quite some time because I felt like it was such a beneficial, multifaceted trait set, you know, because it's an element of hygiene as well. So I was focused on that, but I wasn't doing my own assays. So I was paranoid it kept getting watered down. So I would bring more in. And that's the thing where I said, I think I was looking outside too much because I was degrading what I actually had by constantly bringing something in. And so then I was like, okay, that's it. And I finally stopped. But that was after I started doing assays because I didn't have the confidence that I was keeping that frequency high enough. And like now it's fours, you know, Harbo scores them 1, 2, 3, 4, fours, 80 to 100%, like all the breeders score top. But, and so I'm not going to bring anything else in, but I kind of want to see where it goes, you know, without bringing something.
You got to keep the pressure on, you know, don't get too confident or it just kind of goes back to mediocrity.
Absolute fast too, I think. Yeah, man.
No, that's the game. It's the diversity. If you can keep that trait within that diversity, and it's a beneficial thing. So the bees will select on that as well.
Yep. And I've made a video too to kind of teach others how to do it because I think I had like scientific fear. I don't know what the term would be, like, oh my gosh, I don't have a, you know, I don't know if I can do that, basically. Confidence issue, I guess.
Yeah.
And then one guy was like, why don't you do that? You know, it's not that hard. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we just did it, and it wasn't that hard. And so I kind of made a video to water it down for somebody that may want to just check a colony or check a breeder to see what it. And so I'm trying to put that out there. And I think if more people are doing this, and I'm not trying to get, again, due caution for people trying to run out and learn AI. I mean, you know, it'll definitely make you popular with the opposite sex. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just kidding. They may run away. But I think if more people were doing it, we won't be so reliant on like a John Harbaugh or a VP, and we can kind of have our own little.
It's try to. I mean, that was Marla Spivak's kind of philosophy. Try to get it in the population. Mm-hmm. You know, if all the drones around you are carrying that, she was trying to do that in the Northern California area, with that BIP program and stuff. But it's you just got to stay on it. You know, it's maintaining selection pressure on that over time. Constantly. You can't blink.
Yep. It's just like Mother Nature. She doesn't let off the selection pressure. It's continuous and it's never ending. Well, I think it was you that told me bee breeding is a path with no end.
Exactly.
And it is.
It is.
But I mean, it's a worthy path for certain.
Yep. Laidlaw said to me, he said, "You'll never be bored."
That's true. I think my wife gets sick.
And God, if you look at that, when he said that, things were pretty simple. We worried about American foul brood, or there's no mites. There's
Now look at it. You're definitely not
we're just anticipating AAA labs coming in here now, and God knows.
Oh man, it'll probably happen about the time we make major strides with Varroa or something. But maybe the traits will interchange.
That seems to be it. As soon as you get kind of comfortable with something, it
get knocked off your horse.
But that's the challenge. So.
Indeed. Somebody took me to task too. Like whenever I catch drones, like I'll test my colonies and I have them. They're not all sitting in one spot. So I kind of got them arranged through trees and stuff to kind of cut the drift. And then they're all number tagged. So I know who scored high and who I want to catch from. And then I use the entrance, kind of a queen includer, excluder to catch them coming back from the singles bar and then pick them off when they're locked out at the front door. Somebody from Europe took me to task on the fact that I didn't cage the damn things.
Oh God. They put those screens above the hive and they're full of poop, and oh God.
That's what I told him. I'm like, first off, they've got to be full of poop. They can't get out and, evacuate their bowels. So, and second off, I've taken measures. I'm sure there may be a minor amount of drift, but like I said, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. They're all testing 4s now. So it's a ridiculously high level.
Well, I like that. I have a couple different yards where I keep all these breeders and just put excluders up, and I want that diversity. So if they drift, that's fine.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. And the thing is I'm using breeders. Every one of those colonies around here are from similar lines. They may not be 4s, but I take that back. I mean, we tested a bunch of open mated. We had 1 3. And even all the open mateds were 4s.
Nice.
So, I mean, those drones will be fine, But I kind of got triggered whenever they prodded me over it. It was the way they, presented the challenge.
Well, it's funny. People are, I don't know, they have their really sometimes rigid ideas, but
well, they're like, why would you even do instrumental insemination? There's no control there. I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. Well, you know how the internet is. The anonymity kind of brings out the beast in people sometimes. Man. Well, Sue, I can't thank you enough for your time. I know you've probably got things to do or things going on being Sue Cobey. Is there anything you'd like to share, like late breaking news or things you're working on or future plans?
Oh, we have a new, did I send you that link to the video on selection?
I think so. Yeah. The new one.
Yeah, we have that one, and I'm updating the insemination video. Then we're going to do one on cryopreservation. Okay. Sweet. And we're planning a symposium in July.
Was that the II and cryo?
And cryo stuff. I mean, those are like upcoming things. It's pretty specialized. It's not something the average beekeeper is going to want to go to for sure, but And we're trying to get some funds to bring in some international people. Nice. Because it is so specialized.
Have they made big strides with cryo? Because I know whenever I was there, I think it was 2014, whenever I learned from you. I think
there's some improvements, but we have about the same level of results you have with cattle, horses, chickens, which is about, I don't know, 50-30%.
Okay.
So
it's still kind
but the difference is that, that queen, she needs her 5 million sperm to be viable. So that's the problem. So it's enough that you get a spotty brood pattern, enough to graft off of and reconstruct something, but it won't be a productive hive.
Was it the buffer solution still that you think, or is it just something about?
No, it's the freezing thawing process. You get crystals in there, and it's not the length of time in storage. It's just putting it in and taking it out.
The process, yeah.
So, and those are two really dangerous things. And the aliquots we put in there are maybe 4 microliters. You put a really thin tube so it freezes very fast.
Okay.
So the ice crystals don't form. And one thing Brandon found is that if you stir the liquid nitrogen, it'll freeze faster.
Really?
So there's little things like that, but it's the freezing thawing thing that needs to be worked out a little bit more. And if you look at a honeybee sperm, they have these incredibly long tails. Mm-hmm. So you're getting some separation in the tails, so they can be alive but not fertile.
That makes sense.
So that's the problem. They look really good under the microscope. They're moving around, but they're not fertilizing the queen. So
okay, gotcha.
Some things there. I'm sure Brandon could give you a lot more detail than those kinds of things, but and we're going to have Jakob Wagner from Germany. He's been doing a lot with the cryopreservation stuff, so it should be pretty exciting.
I really want to attend that. And if someone else wanted to go, or where would you find the information, like to register?
We're trying to get that up. We're having some issues with the website. They're short staffed, and the registration is not working, so nothing's up yet. There's a little there's a rough outline on the WC webpage I just put up there. I took out the names of people until we've confirmed we have funds for them.
Sure.
But it should be Gosia from Poland. She does the massive insemination work there. She's amazing. So those are 2 highlights. We'll have some USDA people that run the cryopreservation for animals and plants.
That's awesome.
And yeah. So
I think it would be really cool. So if you're interested in insemination and possibly cryopreservation, that would probably.
Cryopreservation it's a little bit out there, but if you look at trying to maintain a breeding program, like for example, again, Paige's pollen hoarding line, he retired. Kim Fondrick, who was maintaining that, retired, so it's gone. If we could have put that in the tank, for future.
Yeah.
And there's all these different, if you look at honeybees, there's 27, 28 different subspecies and all their ecotypes, and we're losing those. So there's a huge interest throughout Europe for conservation of these different subspecies. So that's really, the push is more in Europe, I think, than here.
Sure.
The US, we have kind of this mongrelized population, but,
yes.
But there's some, like putting the VSH in there and the white biters or whatever.
I was just thinking, man, what if we had that before Varroa hit? How many genotypes would we have been able to preserve?
So what you're doing now, you could put it in the tank and give it to your grandson, which would be pretty cool.
That would be awesome. Bee semen, here's your gift. I worked my whole life for this.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah. I hope that they would appreciate it. If not my grandson, I know there's some people out there that are really interested in bee breeding, and I know it would be of use. So if they want to go to that, or I know I do, keep an eye on the WSC.
Yeah. We'll try to get that up pretty soon here. I'm pushing for it. So
sounds good.
We can get a little a little information on there. So
if people ask me like, oh, are you teaching AI courses and whatnot? I'm like, oh, nope, you need to talk to Sue. You know, I figured once I have, you know, I feel like I know what I'm doing, but I feel like there's always something to learn. And I kind of want to have a little more years of screwing stuff up.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
Well, the Penn State group, as you know, are gearing up for that a little bit. And I've been, we might start doing more classes at WSU in Pullman.
Okay.
More, yeah, I think they're coming up, but I think the VP Queen people do that. Kelly and Adam do a few.
Okay.
Purdue, of course. There's a few. Oh yeah, and Osman Kaftanoglu's successor, Turkish guy at Arizona State University. Sorry, I forget his name.
I don't know him.
He's doing some, but those classes are, I don't know. I've gotten a lot of people disappointed because it takes a lot. You know, it's
a crash
detail,
course, pretty much.
You know, and you've got to have all those virgins and drones, just whatever, huge numbers, so people don't feel bad about just massacring,
killing them. Exactly. Yeah, because it's repetition.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, I tell people just make 50 queens, inseminate those queens, put them in a bank. Do they survive? 2, do they have any sperm in the spermatheca? And then think about getting serious. You know, it's just a lot of detail, a lot of issues going on there. So,
and not to mention, I was brushing over the Page Laidlaw book. I think it was like 199. He's like
he's redoing that.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
I don't know when
that should be out soon.
This one
should be pretty good. Yeah. It's a classic.
But it was talking about basically how there's no monetary incentive for stock improvement. I'm like, God, that's so true.
That's changing.
I hope so. I pushed my prices up just because I have a day job and I wasn't starving to death. So I'm like, no, it's not worth it. I'm pushing.
No, just you know, stepping out of this New World Carniola. I've been trying to do that for about 5 years. Keep taking it back.
Yeah. It's your baby, though.
Yeah, my husband said you have to run it like a dictator.
That's
which
true.
I guess I've done.
Yeah. Well, it kind of makes me wonder too, if it changes hands, will it stay the same?
It'll never stay the same.
I was gonna say it can't. Yeah.
You know, but as long as the quality. Well, Buzz Landon and Valerie Severinsen, Strachan Napiers are taking it over.
Good. Yeah.
But I'll go down there and help with the inseminations and some things like that. It's a little scary to let go, but I still have my fingers in it, you know, and but the value, what it's shown is there's a lot of value for that now. And I mean, my whole life there wasn't. Mostly I was just giving away queens. Here, try this.
Yeah.
But they're expensive now, you know, because there's a kickback for WSU and keeping things going like that. So.
Well, I mean, just maintaining the stock that you can actually select from. Not
people sit down and look at that. You know, I had one of the guys say, "Oh, you should be charging $2,000 a piece for these."
Yeah,
you know,
it's probably not wrong, to be quite honest.
But they're $12.50.
Yep.
Which, you know, and you're paying for the service, the guarantee in that, you know, because if somebody complains, I've got a queen in the mail right away.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's just because the help smacked it with a hive tool or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
But when you pay that kind of money, you want quality.
Yep.
And I think that's what it's about.
And that's what I've done too. If there's any questions at all, or if they don't, I guarantee live delivery. So if something looks weird or it's not worth trying to salvage the money, just replace it. And that's the reason why they shouldn't be so cheap too, because you need to plan on having to replace some because
exactly. Yeah, you need some backups.
Absolutely. And that's what I do, which I tried something else too. I bumped up my instrumental inseminated proven layers, and then I took a John Harbaugh approach, and I'm still on the fence of how I feel about it, of untested, like day 10 inseminated, see ya, next day air. And it's worked really well in some instances. In some instances, it's like I get a bad batch or I got contamination or something and I have problems. it's like either a home run or fail.
Well, the person receiving that too has to know how to introduce them, because they're a little tougher to work
with.
That's
true.
Like that,
yep. I put some blog posts out and stuff on how to do that.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of people that are extremely happy with it too. So I know John sent out if you've bought untested breeders from me, would you please give me some feedback? Which is great.
Yeah.
Because you're not guessing like, okay, how many of these actually made it and worked well, you know? And I'm up front with like, it's a higher risk. That's why they're cheaper.
Yeah.
But then I don't have to tie up nukes and stuff either. I can just sprint, you know, do batches of them and then they hit the mail.
Yeah. Yeah. The beekeeping that goes with all that is expensive.
I just try to cut the labor cost out because there's not enough of me to go around.
Yep.
But anyway, Sue, I won't keep
Cool.
you any longer. I can't thank you enough for your time.
Good.
Not just the time talking to me, but all your expertise and your sacrifice and your time that you've invested through your life, even for education and furthering that. And you've been a huge influence on me, and I can't thank you enough for troubleshooting and equipment. You know, if you need equipment, Sue's the one to talk to. And if you need top level training, there's no one else that I recommend. Sue Cobey.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
The questions and the challenges are the fun part, I think.
It is. Keeps things interesting. You'll never get bored.
Yep.
Well, thanks again, Sue.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Tell Tim I said hi and have a great day. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.